Welcome to True Crime Threads, where we unravel the darkest stories of betrayal and secrets. In today's episode, a husband's discovery leads to a shocking revelation that changes everything. Ravi and Priya appeared to have the perfect life. Married for 5 years, they lived in a quiet suburban town in India, surrounded by family and friends. Their relationship had been built on mutual respect, love, and shared dreams of building a future together. As newlyweds, they had enjoyed the excitement of starting their life as a married couple, and over the years, they grew comfortable in their routine. Ravi worked in a corporate office, while Priya stayed home and took care of their house. Though their lives seemed peaceful on the outside, Ravi started to notice subtle changes in Priya's behavior. At first they were small. Her smile no longer seemed as genuine, and her eyes often appeared distant, as if lost in thought. She began spending long hours in her room, sometimes avoiding family gatherings, which was unlike the Priya he had married. It wasn't just the emotional distance that began to worry Ravi. There was something in her actions that made him uneasy. She became more secretive, her phone buzzing with notifications that she would quickly silence or hide when Ravi entered the room. Their once lively conversations had become brief and detached. Ravi tried to brush it off at first, convincing himself that Priya was perhaps just stressed with work or maybe even feeling down. But the more he observed, the more the cracks in their relationship began to widen. One evening, as Ravi searched for a family photo to share with a friend, he sat down at the computer they shared. As he sifted through folders on the desktop, he came across one labeled private. His heart skipped a beat, but his curiosity pushed him to open it. The contents of the folder made him freeze. Inside were pictures, numerous images of Priya with a man. These were not the kind of photos one might expect in a married woman's personal folder. There was no evidence of Ravi being present in any of them. Instead, Priya was captured in various moments with this man at a cafe, walking through a park, even sitting close on a couch, looking affectionate. The realization hit Ravi hard. His wife, the woman he had trusted, had been hiding a secret life from him. The man in the pictures didn't look familiar at all, which sent a chill down Ravi's spine. He had never seen him before, and the thought that Priya could be involved with someone else was a gut-wrenching shock. His hands trembled as he scrolled through more pictures. These images were intimate and personal, but they only deepened his confusion. Why had Priya kept this hidden for so long? Had their marriage meant nothing to her? But little did Ravi know that this was just the beginning of a far more devastating discovery. Ravi's mind raced with questions. Who was this man, and why had Priya kept him a secret? As he continued to search through the folder, he found more than just photos. There were also messages, emails, and even chat logs between Priya and the man, whose name Ravi now knew was Rajiv. Each message revealed a deeper level of connection, one that seemed to go beyond friendship. Priya's tone in the messages was intimate, often filled with playful banter, personal confessions, and emotional exchanges that made it clear there was more to their relationship than Ravi had ever suspected. Ravi scrolled through months of exchanged words. At first, the messages seemed innocent, nothing more than casual conversations between old friends. However, as time passed, the language grew more affectionate, and the underlying tension between them became undeniable. Priya seemed to be sharing aspects of herself with Rajiv that she had never opened up about with Ravi. She confessed her deepest thoughts, fears, and dreams to him, revealing vulnerabilities she had kept hidden. It became apparent that Rajiv had been more than just a friend from Priya's past. He had become an emotional confidant, someone who had gradually come to mean more to her than Ravi ever imagined. What troubled Ravi the most was not just the betrayal of trust, but the fact that Priya had kept Rajiv's identity hidden for so long. He had never even heard her mention Rajiv's name before. This secrecy left Ravi feeling isolated and betrayed, as though Priya had been living a double life. The more he read, the more it seemed like Rajiv had been a part of Priya's life in ways that Ravi had never been. He couldn't help but wonder how long this affair had been going on. Had Priya fallen out of love with him? Was Rajiv the reason for her distance, the emotional void that had begun to grow between them? The chat logs went back years, revealing that Priya and Rajiv's relationship had deepened gradually over time. It was clear that they had been in contact long before Ravi had even come into the picture. Priya had known Rajiv from her college days, and while Ravi had always assumed their relationship was strictly platonic, it was now clear that Rajiv had played a much bigger role in Priya's life than he ever knew. The truth was hard to swallow, and Ravi found himself torn between disbelief and anger. How could Priya have hidden something like this from him for so long? How had their once happy marriage devolved into this hidden web of secrets and lies? But the most shocking part of all was yet to come. Ravi was about to learn that Rajiv was not just any man, he was involved in something far more dangerous, and it was a truth that would change everything. As Ravi continued to dig through the messages and files, he discovered something that left him frozen in disbelief. One evening, while reading an email Priya had sent to Rajiv, he saw a mention of something he hadn't expected. Rajiv was HIV positive. The email was dated only a few months earlier, and it became painfully clear that Priya had known about Rajiv's status for a long time. His heart sank as he read the words, trying to process what they meant. Priya had been involved with Rajiv during a time when he had been aware of the risk, but she had never shared this critical piece of information with Ravi. Ravi felt a rush of panic as he replayed the entire situation in his mind. How long had Priya been in this relationship with Rajiv? And more terrifyingly, had she exposed herself to the virus without telling him? Ravi couldn't stop thinking about the implications if Priya had been involved with Rajiv during the time he was HIV positive. There was a real possibility that she could have contracted the virus. His thoughts spiraled into fear and anxiety. Priya's silence on the matter was the most unsettling part. Ravi couldn't understand why she hadn't confided in him, why she hadn't told him about Rajiv's health status before. If she had truly cared for him, wouldn't she have been honest? Had their entire marriage been a lie? He couldn't fathom how she had kept such an important truth from him, especially considering the danger it posed to both of their lives. But the more Ravi thought about it, the clearer it became that this was no simple affair. It wasn't just about betrayal or infidelity, it was about trust, safety, and their future together. Ravi's mind raced with questions about how Priya could have knowingly put herself and him at risk. Had their marriage meant so little to her that she would hide something as serious as HIV from him? The fear that gripped Ravi intensified as he realized the severity of the situation. He had always trusted Priya, but now that trust was shattered, replaced by an overwhelming sense of dread. Would he be safe? Had Priya, in her quest for emotional fulfillment with Rajiv, inadvertently jeopardized everything they had built? He knew he had to confront Priya, but the thought of doing so filled him with a sense of helplessness. How could he ask her about this? How could he confront her without knowing the full extent of the damage? As he sat there, his hands trembling, he felt utterly powerless. The discovery of Rajiv's HIV-positive status was not just a painful betrayal, it was a ticking time bomb, one that threatened to destroy everything in its wake. Ravi's emotions swirled in turmoil as he sat in silence, processing the weight of what he had uncovered. His mind raced with questions, but one stood out above the rest. How could Priya have done this to him? The betrayal, the secrecy, the unthinkable risk, he couldn't comprehend how everything had unraveled so quickly. His anger grew, but so did his fear. What if he had already been exposed to HIV? He had to confront Priya, but how could he do it? What was the right way to approach such a devastating truth? That evening, after hours of pacing and debating within himself, Ravi finally summoned the courage to face Priya. He had to know the truth, to understand why she had kept such a massive part of her life hidden from him. He walked into their bedroom, where Priya was sitting on the bed, her face strained and tired. He could see she had been crying. His heart wavered, torn between his anger and the sympathy he still had for her, but he knew there was no going back. Without saying a word, Ravi sat down and placed the folder of evidence on the bed between them. Priya's eyes widened when she saw what it was. She immediately turned pale, as though she had already anticipated the conversation that was about to unfold. Ravi's voice was cold and steady as he asked her, Why didn't you tell me, Priya? Why did you hide this from me? Why did you let me live in the dark?" Priya broke down, tears streaming down her face as she confessed everything. She admitted to the affair with Rajiv, explaining that it had started years ago, long before Ravi and Priya had gotten married. She explained that Rajiv had been a part of her life since college, someone she had always felt a strong connection to. The affair, Priya claimed, had initially been something she had wanted to keep brief, a temporary escape from the pressures of life and the demands of marriage. But over time it had turned into something deeper, something she hadn't anticipated. What shocked Ravi even more was Priya's revelation about Rajiv's HIV-positive status. She admitted that she had known about it from the beginning but had convinced herself that she could keep herself safe, that she could somehow avoid the risk. Priya's voice faltered as she explained how she had tried to rationalize her actions. She had believed that the precautions she took using protection and regular health checks would be enough. But deep down, she knew the risk was there. Still, she had chosen to stay in the affair, unable to break free from the emotional connection she had developed with Rajiv. Ravi listened in disbelief, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. How could Priya have taken such a dangerous risk, knowing the consequences? He didn't know how to react. The love he had for her was still there, but it was now tangled with the realization that everything had been tainted by deceit. What would this mean for their marriage? Could they ever rebuild what had been broken? The weight of the conversation hung heavily in the air, leaving Ravi numb and struggling to process the reality of what Priya had confessed. The betrayal was one thing, but the potential threat of HIV was something Ravi could hardly grasp. His world had been turned upside down in just a few short hours. The pain of being deceived by the woman he loved was overwhelming, but the fear of what this could mean for his health was even more terrifying. Priya, for her part, seemed broken, tears still streaming down her face as she apologized repeatedly. She told Ravi how ashamed she felt for what she had done, for betraying his trust in the worst possible way. She admitted that the affair with Rajiv had spiraled out of control, becoming something she could no longer walk away from. She had known the risk, she said, but somehow had convinced herself that it would never affect her. She had never expected things to get so complicated, never imagined the fallout would be this catastrophic. Ravi, however, couldn't simply forgive her. The love he had once felt for Priya now felt distant, tainted by the secrecy and lies that had come to light. The trust that had once formed the foundation of their relationship had been shattered beyond repair, and the fear of what could happen next loomed like a dark cloud. He didn't know how to move forward. Should he stay and try to rebuild, or was the damage too great to overcome? As the night wore on, Ravi began to make arrangements to get tested. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. He could no longer wait. He needed to know the truth about his health, and he needed to know immediately. Priya offered to go with him, to get tested alongside him, but Ravi didn't know if he could bear being in her presence during such a critical moment. The trust was gone, and though Priya had shown remorse, it wasn't enough to heal the deep wound she had inflicted. The following days were filled with uncertainty. Ravi underwent his tests, and Priya did the same, both of them in a state of constant fear, not knowing what the results would bring. While Ravi spent his days contemplating the future, Priya sought counseling and medical help, desperately trying to deal with the emotional aftermath of the situation. In the end, the test results came back negative for Ravi, but the damage to their relationship remained. The affair had taken its toll, and no matter how much Priya tried to apologize or show remorse, the trust was irreparably broken. Ravi had to make a decision. Could he stay in a marriage filled with lies and broken promises, or was it time to let go? Neither option seemed easy, and the future of their relationship hung in the balance, uncertain and fragile. As they both faced the reality of their choices, they realized that healing, if it were possible, would take time neither of them was sure they had.